Hi everyone. Today's agenda is learning about combo box in LWC, and what we are exactly going to do is in this combo box I'm going to get the values of a specific field of an object. For example, we will get the values of industry field of account, all the values that are there in the pick list in this combo box. But what different we are doing is according for a specific record type we are getting the value. So let's say if industries values industry just has three values for a particular record type of account, then we'll only get those three values in this combo box. Apart from that, we are also going to take care that we are not hard coding the record type ID in LWC. So let's quickly begin. Now you see in this contact point email object, I'm going to use contact point email object, by the way, for this demo. Now it has a field called usage type, picklist field called usage type. Other thing that we are going to handle here is you could see that the label and API names are different. Label shows home one, work one, temporary one, but the API name shows just home, just work, and just temporary. So what I want to handle in my combo box as well is when it displays the value, it shows with one. But when I select that value in the combo box in the backend, it should give me home because it should give me value, not the label. So that is something that we are going to handle. And secondly, like I told you, record type specific values we want to get. So record type one, which is the default record type for this one, contact point email, that is having two values in it, home and work, like you see here, home one and work one. And other record type 2 is having temporary one and inactive one. Okay, so let's start. I'm going and I've created a lightning combo box LWC component over here. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, we in the first example that I'm going to show you, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the values of usage type field in the combo box for the default record type. So like I told you, record type 1 is the default record type. So how can we do that? So first of all, because for doing this, we need wire. So I've come here in the developers.salesforce.com documentation, and over here I have searched for Lightning UI object info API. And within that we have get object info, get pick list values and all that. So I'll be showing as we proceed. But for now, this uh, this that you see get object info, that is required for us in order to get the uh, default okay, wait, this is get pick list values. And okay, I don't have the code over here, but anyhow, as I'll write the code, I'll show you guys. But for now, what we need is we are going to import wire. That's the very first step. Next, we want get object info because we are going to use this. Why? I'll tell you. But first, let's import it. Okay. Next, I am importing which object am I working on. So I would say CPE object, and here you would say salesforce slash schema slash the object name. So here the contact point email. Okay, this much we have done. Now let me go to the HTML of this and let's create a combo box. So this is how I created a combo box. First I created a lightning card. Then I have added a lightning combo box. By the way, lightning combo box, those who don't know, it is like a pick list which we could use. Okay? The name is, I've set filter, label is usage type, value is selected value. This is a variable. Option, this would give us the list of all the options. And when we get the options from that object contact point email, we'll store it in this variable, and that is how we'll get option in this combo box. And then whenever you change some value, you select different values. On change of the values, this method will get called. Okay. So this is it. Now my main aim is to populate the options over here, and that is why we are doing this exercise. So next thing that we are going to do is we'll declare these variables over here. Okay. Now what next we need to do is we need to get object info. This we need to utilize. Why? I'll tell you later, but first let's do that. Okay, so this is the syntax. We are wiring this one, get object info, just like the usual syntax, comma, and what parameter are we passing? Object API name, and then this, the API name of the object that we are using. We are using contact point email, right? So the API name is something that I have set over here, like this is the API name, but I'm calling this with this variable, and I'm putting that variable over here. And then I have a object info variable, which will get me all this information, which I'm using in the next step. Now, what would be the next step is, by the way, this that I've written here, right? This one, you could see I've got it from this UI object info API. Within that, there is get object info. So what is the syntax of that is, whatever you have written over here, get object info, that we need to write over here, comma, object API name, this is the standard way, and object account. So in my case, it is CP underscore object because I had contact point email. And then the property or the function. So this is my property name. So that's how I've done it. Now, the next thing is we need to get the pick list values. So within that only, we have get pick list values. So I went there, and here you see there is the syntax for getting the field value. Now, which field we want to get? We want to, here in this example, they have shown that we are getting the industry value of account object, but I am getting usage type of contact point email. So I'll be mentioning that field accordingly. So let's first give that field. Okay. So I'm saying Salesforce schema, the object name dot the field API name, and then I'm just specifying a variable value for it. Okay. Now next is fire get pick list values. So this, like we for object info, we had used get object info, right? Similarly, for get pick list value, we have something called get pick list value. So we need to import that. So let's quickly add that over here. So I would just say get pick list value and save it. Okay. Now the next is this one. I'm wiring this over here, comma. There are two parameters, the record type ID for which I'm getting that field and the field name. Now, currently what they have done is they have hard coded the record type ID, but I don't want to hard code like I said in the agenda, right? So what I'm going to do is there is an option if you don't want to hard code the ID, and I'll show you how. Here, by the way, I want to get record type ID of the default record type. So default record type was record type 1, like I told you, right? So I want to get the record type ID of record type 1, and all the values which are there in usage type for record type 1, I want to get those values in this combo box. So I'm saying get pick list values over here, parameters I'm passing record type ID equal to. Now I told you, I'll tell you why am I creating this, right? Because if I don't want to hard code the record type ID, I could use this one, this variable. So your object info dot data dot default record type ID. So this would give me the default record type ID of contact point email. And which field do I want? I want usage field. Usage field is what I've declared over here, usage type. Okay. And I am wiring this with function. So let me further add the function over here. Okay. The name is, let's say, wired data. I'm just putting a console.log when I come inside. If data is there, then what I'm doing is data.values.map into option. Now, why have I written like this? Because I want both label and value, right? Like I told you. So label would display me the label, but when I select that actual, value, the backend should give me the API value, right? API name. So make sure the syntax is like this. And this one that you see here, this is tilde sign. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but it is not single quote. Single quote is this. You see, there is a difference. So make sure you use the tilde sign and not the single quote. Okay. So this is what we have added. Now in options, we'll get label and value form, but in combo box, you will just see the label. But when you select that label, that specific value, you will get the API value in the backend. Okay, I am saving it. And yep, that's about it. Okay, let me deploy source to org. Okay, before that, we have not exposed this and all. So okay. Okay, so I've deployed it now, and I already have on account. I'm going, and on account I've created this, actually this button called combo box. Let me edit it and put lightning combo box 1. Okay, and just save it. By the way, there is one more change that I'd like to make here. Whenever there are changes in the pick list value that is selected, we need to show that. Okay, so all I've done is handle pick list change. I've made one method. I put event in the parameter, and all I'm doing is event.detail.value. That is what we use. And like you see here, if you see in the HTML, there is a on change in the lightning combo box in which we have called this method. Okay, so yeah, let me deploy it. Okay, fine. Now let me empty cache and hard reload. Okay, now you see we just have two values, which is home one and work one. Now, why is that? Like I told you, we have taken the default record type, which is record type 1. For that record type, usage type field is having only these two values. So it is working perfectly fine. But now let's say I want record type 2 to be used. Now, how do I do that? So for that, what we are going to do is, let me show you that. Okay, now in my Apex class, I've written a method called get record type ID, in which I'm passing the object name and record type name. Okay, now this is a very commonly used syntax for getting the record type ID. So I'm just passing the object name and the record type name for which I want the record type ID, and I'm just returning it. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to call this from my LWC. So let us quickly import that method. So what I'm doing here is import get record type ID from Salesforce Apex class name dot the method name. Okay, and like we usually do, wiring it. So let me quickly wire it. Okay, there is a variable that I'm going to create called record type ID. Okay. Now what I'm doing here is I'm wiring and getting this get record type ID. I'm passing two parameters because there were two parameters over there. One is the object API name and one is the record type API name. I'm passing both of them over here. And then this is the method name. If I get the data, I'm putting it in this dot, this one, that record type ID. And if not, I'm putting error. Okay. So this is done. Now let me save it. Okay, now next thing that I'm going to do is I don't want to hard code the record type ID, and neither do I want to use the default record type. So what I'll do is I'll use the this dot record type ID over here, and you will get an error, but I'm intentionally doing it just to show you one thing. Deploy source to org. Okay, done. So let's go here. Okay, so you got an error saying record type ID is undefined, right? Now, why does that happen? See, if you notice, uh, in wire is executed first. Now, where is that? In wire. It is this one, right? So the in all there are three wire that we have created. This one, and this one. So what happened is first it came over here, and by that time rec type ID is undefined, right? So that is why it is giving us this error. And then later on it goes here and it gets the record type ID, and this, you see, this dot record type ID is printed over here. But then what do we do now? If I want that only after the record type is got by this one, then this one should execute. So for that, what we need to do is, if we want to have it sequentially such that this one executes only after we have record type ID variable, we need to write it in single quote with dollar sign. Now what will happen because of this is when we have the rec type ID over here, it's not undefined. That is when this will get executed and it will work correctly. So let me just save it. Now you see there is no error. Although it went in wire, but it did not have any problem because it didn't go inside and actually execute it. Now this dot record type, first we got that and then it again went in wire, and this time there is no problem. So if you want to sequentially do that, you need to use this way, like single quote within that dollar, and that's how first this will get executed and this, and there'll be no problem. Now here, as you see, we had passed in the parameter API name of record type 2. So now we should have the other two values over here. Now you see temporary one and inactive one. Now the other thing is we have also added a method, right? For whenever a value changes, we are calling that method, right? And we are just displaying the new value that is selected. So let us check, does it work? Okay. So here you see in the label, you see temporary one, but in the value, new value selected is temporary. Let me select inactive one. So now you see the selected value is inactive. So in the backend, we have value, in the front end, we have label. Besides, whenever I'm changing, I'm getting that value over here. Okay, so that's about it. If this video helped, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.